Welcome along once again to the Cardiff City Phone In. We were all saying what a great team we had, and we couldn't go wrong last week. Wink, wink. 3 games, how we turned it around. 7 points out of 9. Clean sheets. Winning, beating Bristol City. Everything's looking rosy all of a sudden, which really isn't how it was last week. We'll introduce the panel. We've got Gary Lee, who hasn't been on the phone in for many a moon. Welcome back, Gary.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thanks for the invite.
Great to get you back on. You go all the way back, don't you, to the old days of the show? So it's nice.
Yeah. So,
Richard Davis, welcome back.
Evening all. Thank you, Steve, for the invite.
And you're competing with Gary for Exercise Bike of the Week, which is a good effort. Well done.
Mine's folded, so it's not being used.
And Paul Mohammed, welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Good evening, all.
Paul, good to have you back on. I'll go to you first. So I don't know. I was talking to you before we went on last week on the show. Quite a lot of flack towards Errol Bullitt, and of course that then nods towards Mr. Dalman and all kinds of stuff. And fans generally unhappy and looked like we were treading water. And then really, we got the draw, we got the win. And then we went away to Bristol and we won 7 points from 9. What's your take on Errol Bullitt in terms of, here we are now into March. There's still no contract situation. It fluctuates depending on results, but what would be your take?
I think they were sensible in giving him a 1 year, first of all, whether that be a rolling or whatever it is, when we haven't really been told. But I think that was sensible, given what they've done in the past. And given that he's come from overseas and had no experience in the UK, never mind the Championship. So I think that was a good move. If the brief was we don't know what his brief was, what his budget was, but let's be honest, that based on the budget, you'd have to say that mid-table is about right. And I think that's progression from the last 2 seasons, particularly from last season, when, in all fairness, we probably should have gone down. I think we were very lucky to stay up. So if you look at where we were last year and the year before to this year, and I think we're going to finish in and around 10th, 12th, which I would say is acceptable. Then you look at budget, style of play, etc., etc. I'd say he's a defensive manager. First and foremost, well, he was a defender when he played. I'd say it took him time to get used to the Championship, which you would expect. And I got to be honest, I think if you were putting it on balance, I'd say, what's the point of going back to what we've done before and getting rid of him and trying, unless there's a plan there and they've got somebody in mind and it's an improvement, and then I would keep him and I would back him. Well, whatever budget he may or may not get in the summer. But I think he's shown enough to see that he's adapting to the English, British, I should say, though, the UK conditions, Championship, the intensity of that, which would be different to what he's used to, I'm sure, in Turkey or Germany. It's totally different style of play and standard and intensity, I would say. So what he's done on what he's got, I would say he deserves at least another year. But then again, it comes down to the owner and what his ambitions are. And we know he wants Premier League. But let's be honest, on the budget that we've got, this season was always going to be very difficult, particularly with the top 3 or 4 whose budgets are way above ours and quality's way above ours. And I think mid-table's improvement, he should be given another year, but will he? Who knows? We just don't know. But this club doesn't make the, announcements like that. We don't really know. I'm not on the inside to know that. So if it was me, I would say, yeah, 1 more year and give him that.
Okay. Gary, what's your thoughts on Errol Bullitt?
Yeah, I would probably agree with Paul there, Steve. The thing is, when whoever's in charge next year, whether it be Errol Bullitt or somebody else, it all depends on our budget, doesn't it? If they're not going to back him, we can't keep building sides on loans and free transfers and very little money spent. So I think that you're going to have to. You have to push the boat out a little bit, I think clear the decks again. A lot, as I said before, I think a lot of the boys out of contract, they'll all be gone, and we're discussing whether Ojo's out of contract. Well, and what he's shown down here in nearly 3 years now, he's not even playing for Cardiff every week, is he? So, and I think really got to, if we go back to squid, I wouldn't trust if you get rid of Errol Bullitt or if he walks. That's another point of discussion, really. Who are you going to get in? Because I just don't know if I'd really put great faith in them. Getting anybody in would be an improvement. And he's had a year now. He seems to be bedding down with I mean, he's got Gutas here and Siopis here, doesn't he? Purely because he knows them, And also about a month ago, didn't they hire a director of football or a chief scout or something who's broadly based, knows the sort of Turkish and German leagues, doesn't he? So I find that strange that you're going to get a guy in like that if your manager isn't going to be here next year. But obviously, prior to the January window, I don't think he was very happy, was he? I don't think he was very happy that we basically got everybody in on the last 2 or 3 days of the window, and I don't know if he's truly happy with, I certainly don't think that. I thought Jeju was the last day was an absolute panic sign, and at the moment he shows nothing, does he? Really, he's way off the pace, and he's made remarks this week about him expecting a lot more from him, and I think he's disappointed with him so far. So, I think if we did get rid of him, we like Paul said, we're back to square one, then, aren't we? We're back to square one, new manager. New play, he probably he probably wants to bring his own players again, and we start all over again, and there's no continuity, is there? So no. What do you do then?
Yeah, and there's a lot in what you said there. There's some nice comments coming in. Thanks very much, everyone, for supporting the show and putting the comments in. Richard, just to say to you, going back to what Gary's talking about there. In terms of your take on it, has it honestly changed this week to what it was last week? By the way, we're picking up a few results. Are you prepared to give them some time?
I think we should. I think as a football club, we need stability, especially in the managerial hot seat, because it has been like a revolving door, isn't it? You can't keep going seasons like we did last year. We had 3 managers, the season before 2, and this season, things have improved. The results are improved on the pitch. We're probably about a couple of wins away, possibly from safety this season. He's done. What he's brought in has improved. It definitely improved the squad. The keeper, the new keeper, he's looking a good signing. Turnbull is a good midfielder, but he needs to get to the speed of the Championship's a lot different to the Scottish game. And obviously, Siopis and Gutas have been really good signings. I think he's just. I would stick with him personally. I think he has done a good job. We're not going to play champagne football. We haven't got the riches what other clubs have got, have we? So, no. But we've been a lot more competitive this year than what we were last year. We've had a couple of hidings, but that's this league, isn't it?
Yeah, that's gonna happen. But there's a comment. I think I might know who this person is, by the way. I can picture us this time next season in about 6th or 7th on the back of a number of 1-0 wins. We've scored and then sat back and invited the other teams to score. So, like Paul said, Richard, I think it's pretty straightforward to accept. It seems to be, should we say, Errol Bullitt is quite a conservative, kind of safe kind of manager, and he likes to. He relies on his kind of dead ball play quite a bit, doesn't he?
He does. I think that's very similar to when we had Malky Mackay, wasn't it? Because the football wasn't attractive, but we ground out wins, and you had to defend. And Phillips, the lad Nathaniel Phillips from Liverpool, sort of like settling in quite nicely. He's building a decent partnership with Gutas. He looks a really good player.
Yeah.
I think if you look what he's done in the transfer window, apart from we haven't got a striker, but he's done everything else. He seems to improve the team.
Yeah,
you know, we are certainly a better side than what we were last year.
we are.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you've got to look at that and think, well, yes, we'd like to sort of like be challenged at the top end of the championship again, but you've got to be realistic. After 2 seasons in the bottom, you know, struggling around the bottom 6, you know, you have to be realistic where you are. And I think
Phillips looks good. I think
Patriots is needed as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Phillips looks a real good signing. And thank God we've got him, because with you know, McGuinness being out long term, if we didn't have Phillips there, now we'd be right in the, you know, we'd be desperate for a back four, wouldn't we? Really?
Yeah, he slotted in quite nicely, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he slotted in quite nicely.
He's had a couple of decent games. Yeah.
So that's an interesting one, Paul, because where I find a little bit with Errol Bullitt, I wonder maybe he's a bit cute actually with trying to depict how good his English is. So he comes out with things sometimes you think, oh, is there a language thing going on? Like the way he has identified Nat Phillips, hasn't he, from the last game, talking about, you know, lauding the way he controls the ball at the back. And then, but previous to that, of course, the comments about the comments he made about other players in more of a negative sense, most noticeably Ollie Tanner, you know, and then calling him out, and then there he is, comes on against Bristol City, looked pretty good, you know. So is there some good man management going on there, I wonder?
Yeah, I noticed that actually, because what I saw with Tanner was his work off the ball when he came on, because we seemed to drop a bit from the last 20 minutes. We invited them on, as we usually do, and we seemed to drop in a lot. And I noticed with Ollie Tanner, he was working back a lot more, because in his position, he's going to be, his work needs to be done off the ball far more than on the ball. And I think that was the reason that he called him out, that it maybe there's things we don't see, attitude in training and things like that. I'm not so sure you should do that in the press.
No, not me.
I'm not a big fan of that. If I'm, sometimes they like to flex their muscles, these managers, don't they? And they like to show the fans that this is what we're doing. And he left him out of the squad for 1 game, and he comes back, and he did well when he came on Saturday, in fairness. I mean, he's a raw teenager, not teenager, is he? Tanner, how old is he?
20.
He's a young player. He's a young player who he's in his first full season, isn't he? He's been out on loan. He's played at non-league. He's been out on loan at non-league. He's finding his way. He's a talent, but he's a work in progress, and you can't expect too much from him. So I think it was good in a way, but not so much in the publicity stakes, putting it in the press. But there you go. If that's his style, then so be it. I think with the January window, if I'm other than the striker problem, which we've always had, and we've always panicked and bought and got somebody in the last minute of the fax machine or whatever. We've always done that, and and you can almost expect it every window. But I think in all the other positions, I think it was improvement. That we needed a goalkeeper. I think we got a goalkeeper now who's
looking good, isn't he?
I think this bloke potentially could be number 1 for a number of years. He kept 20 odd clean sheets for Luton last season when they went up through the playoffs. He's a good, solid. Okay, he might not be amazing with his feet. I don't want the keepers dribbling out, and as long as he's a decent keeper, commands his box, which he looks like he does. And I think that's a good signing. And he's a 3-4 year. I think that's a good signing. I think Turnbull will be a good signing in time.
Yeah.
He'll take time to adapt, but he's clearly a talented player. You can see him on the ball. He's got something.
I think he's looking good. Yeah, better all the time.
We haven't really got an abundance of ball carrying midfield players, have we? Let's be honest. So he's an improvement. We don't score that many goals from open play. We're a set piece side, nearly 50% of our goals. We're not a massive counter-attacking team either with pace. So Turnbull, I think, is another one who next season could be a good player, and he's another permanent signing. So you've got to look at it and think the club is making progress. We've missed Ramsey for most of the season, where that little bit of quality that we're missing. Yeah. you know, with Ramsey and a striker, things may have been different if we'd have started the season with the keeper, the centre back that we signed. Nat Phillips is a good loan signing. The kid at left back looks a good player if he gets a run in the side.
Yeah.
You know, so the signs are obviously they're loan players, half of those, but you know, and therein comes the situation at the end of the season where probably most of those their wages will be too high for us to sign.
I don't know where you can see, Paul, on the screen. There's a question there from Matthew Angel, you know, which you're kind of answering actually, but continue. Do you think any of the players, coming back to us actually, do you think any of the players we have out on loan will come back to the club, which kind of the antithesis of what you're saying actually? But I take your point about the players we got on loan, whether we keep any of them, if we can afford them. But conversely, do you think any of the ones we got out on loan will come back to us?
I think Isaac Davis is probably the one you would single out, because he seems to be playing regularly in Belgium, doesn't he? And he's scoring goals, contributing, although they're towards the bottom of the league, I see. But he's having a run of games, which is what he needed. So he's probably one you would say, absolutely. I can't. Bagan, I'm not so sure. I don't know whether he would be another one who would possibly be. And there are a few other younger ones on there who
Well, Bagan had a 3-year deal, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's another one who's worth pursuing. He looked decent when he played for us, didn't he? And he's gone out on loan. Another one who needed a full season to play, I would say, and go away and experience maybe, you know, different environment, different culture like he has. So, yeah. But the loan signings we made, coming back to the ones if we could afford Nat Phillips, it looks the obvious one to me. But I think he's out of contract this season at Liverpool, and I would suggest his wages will be far more than what we could afford. It'll come down to, it looks like for him, he wants to put himself in the shop window for probably a higher up club than us who could afford bigger wages. But to me, he looks a potential. He could be our best centre half of all three of them. I would say.
Gary, you're liking Nat Phillips as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I think he's on 65k a week at Liverpool, isn't he? So, you know, unless he's going to take it, you know, allegedly. So
we want a team for that.
Yeah,
but he's out of contract, so that.
Yeah, well, 3-year deal. You know, I mean, how much can we put? Again, like I said before, you know, the January window, would we push the boat out for? You know, half that? I don't know. Isaac Davis, I agree with him. He scored again last night, didn't he? So
7 goals now.
Yeah, it was a little striker's goal too. He run down the side of the centre halves, and the keeper hesitated a bit, and he poked it. You know, he scored 7 goals up there now in a poor team.
A poor team, yeah.
And he looks, you know, he's scoring goals on the run. He looks sharp. They love him out there at penalties. So, you know, with what we got on the books at the moment, I cannot think that he wouldn't add something to the team having had a year in Belgium. You know, Bagan again. I think he played 45 minutes for the team there last night, didn't he? They're in the first division out there, didn't they? So, but like Paul said, they give him, when they sent him out there on loan, they just given him a 3-year deal. So you don't. As for the rest, I don't think any of the other lads who are out on loan will come back. I don't think Ojo will get another contract, and in my opinion, rightly so. He's just not shown enough, really. And there's a couple of lads up in Scotland, isn't there? They got Fagan Walcott, I think, with Dunfermline, and
Kieran Evans. Is that Gateshead?
Yeah, Gateshead. I just cannot see. I think if you're going as far down as Gateshead, I don't think you're coming back to a championship.
No, he's out of contract at the end of the season.
Yeah, I just can't see. I just can't see it. You know, no. I just can't see any of these. Other than I think they're the obvious two.
Yeah.
You know, and then other than that, I just can't see any of those. And Denham's another one, isn't he? You know,
Denham's another one. I really like Denham, and I know it's, you know, and he's not playing at a decent, really high level. He's playing for Sligo, isn't he, in Ireland?
Yeah.
A mate of mine, he's a lifelong City fan. He lives in Ireland now, so he's become his second club's become Sligo. You know, so they can watch Ollie Denham.
Yeah.
And apparently he's looking great. You know, I mean, you can only play against the level you're up against. I think he's got something about him. I really do. But whether we'll keep him,
he's still quite young though, Denham, isn't he? Denham is still quite young. Yeah. He's still a young pro. So, you know, going out to play in Ireland might not be a bad thing for him. Yeah. You know, I suppose it's about going out and getting a lot of these youngsters have gone out to play competitive football,
game time,
instead of sitting around, you know, in the the development teams where you're not really, it's sort of like, you know, it's like more or less like a testimonial game, a lot of it. So at least they're going out playing competitive football, and they're, you know, going out, taking them out of their comfort zone really as well, aren't they? So, and that can always, you know, that can either make or break them really. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, Richard, as well, with Isaac, I think we were, you know, as well, I was as a person of a certain age, you know, thinking, oh, poor old Isaac, you know, hundreds of miles, 1,000 miles away from home, you know, you must be lonely and la la la. But he's been talking a good game and saying he's loving it. Apparently his girlfriend's gone out there with him, and I think it's quite good, really. He reminds a little bit of the Ernie scenario when he was a kid years ago. And we put him out.
Morton, wasn't it?
Yeah, Granite Morton. Yeah, and it really brought them on. I think it could do the same with Isaac Davis. You know.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that we do miss, and Isaac Davis has got abundance of his pace, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and if he comes back, you know, it all depends how he hits the, you know, how he comes back to pre-season. You know, have a good pre-season, he could be back in the first team picture.
So Matthew Angel asked the question: do you think we have any chance of keeping any of the loan players? Phillips, as Paul said, reported to be, I was actually, I think it might have been you, Richard, said he's on really big money at Liverpool. He's out of contract in the season, like Paul said. So, you know, we'll see. He's going to find a club, maybe kind of spend that money moving forward. But he's been brilliant since he's come in. I think he's looking better and better all the time. And then Wilson Esbrand as well, been doing a decent job, and has given us an option at left back. But he's a youngster at Man City. You know, which of these players, if you could pick one or two to keep, which would they be for you?
I would certainly keep Phillips. That'd be one, and I probably would keep the Man City kid as well.
Colin Grant.
Because I think Collins has gone backwards a bit this season, hasn't he? Because he's had no real sort of like competition. So he's come quite down our left hand side. I think teams have identified it's a bit of a weakness as well.
Well, the last 3 games, Paul, 2 clean sheets. You know, I mean, we were averaging a goal a game, but we kept 2 clean sheets. We do look. I think I've got to give some credit actually to Wilson Esbrand for that. Actually, the youngster coming in a left back, and Nat Phillips has really settled into it because he hadn't played much football, Paul, before he came here for a long time. We're looking pretty good at the back, and the keeper, as you said, Horvath, and a good thing, like you said, Horvath and Turnbull, moving forward, they're ours, you know.
Yeah, that's
the defense is shaping up well, Paul.
I think they're good. They were good signings, those two, Turnbull and the keeper, as I said. But the loan player, he's out of contract too with Man City. Esbrand, he's 21.
Oh, is he? Okay,
he's out of contract. I mean, that's the classic. They send them out on loan in the last 6 months of their contract to put them in the shop window, to give the players a chance to show themselves in the shop window, like same as Nat Phillips. He's out of contract too. So it's actually a good incentive for those players, and they're good loan signings to have because they're playing for their next contracts, whatever that may be. Hopefully it's with us, because if Esbrand was available as well, then I think he's another one that you would at 21. He looks like he's got enough to say that. But these players need runs. You know, they need runs they need a run in the team, in the squad, in and around it. You can't just put them on as sub in this. They need 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, you know, like they're probably going to get now. And then things start to take shape. You can't, because they haven't been playing. They're put out on loan because they haven't been playing. You know, the keeper took a few games, and now he's looking like what he was last season.
Yeah, he looked rusty at first, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had a good season last year with Luton, and he's a proven international, so that's a good signing. So yeah, Carlin Grant's the other one I was going to say that I think if you get the right players with him, he's another good player that would be one that, if wages permitted, because I think he's out of contract too with West Brom. He's another one who possibly could be in towards the top earners, of course. But I think Bullet likes him because his work rate's good. He works
his work
back.
rate's excellent, isn't it?
He's a proper team player, Carlin Grant, and I think the only problem he's got is we don't know exactly which position is his best.
No.
He actually can float along the front line.
I'm going to say not where he is. I'm going to say
he's wide. He's a 10. He could actually play a 9. He's a decent player if you get the right players around him, and that's what I said earlier. I think the fact that we miss Ramsey this season, if we'd have got even half the season out of Ramsey, with his quality and his ability to see a pass, and I think if we just lack that. We lack pace through the middle, and we lack the striker, but Ramsey adds that quality.
So Paul, I'll ask you first, and then maybe we'll go around on this. So, Were we being a little bit unrealistic, thinking that Aaron Ramsey, local lad, and all that, Philly boy, and all this Welsh international, great signing, glamour signing, and all the rest of it? Were we maybe a little bit unrealistic based on his fairly long term now, injury issues? Did we expect too much from him? Have we expected too much from him? Do you think, Paul?
I think I said months ago on this show, if he plays half the season, we're lucky, and he probably won't even make 10 now. No. So I think we have to be realistic, but it's just so sad that he had a good start to the season.
Looking great, wasn't he?
6-7 games, 2 goals, 2 or 3 assists, or whatever it was. Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. And it was a freak injury in training, apparently, wasn't it? So after the derby.
Yeah.
So it's just so sad. But the problem is with Ramsey, once he gets an injury, it just takes so long for him to come back.
Yeah.
Because his body's just made that way.
He's
now.
taking that. Remember that terrible injury? That was an awful injury.
Yeah. The Shawcross tackle. That's right.
Yeah. Dreadful injury.
Yeah.
Gary, what's your take on that? As fans, let's face it, we're all jumping through the roof, weren't we?
Yeah. Well, he's a quality. It's just so sad. But I think we always knew he was. It's relentless, the championships, isn't it? Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, when you knew he was never going to play more than. It showed his quality when he came on at West Brom the other week. We were awful up there, and then for 15 minutes, it just turned. We could have scored twice after he came on. I mean, Ted missed an absolute sitter, didn't he? And Ramsey won 3 backstick headers. He just pulls away from people. Cute. And that just shows what we missed for such a long time. It's the only time we looked dangerous up there was when he came on, really. And but with him, unfortunately, he was never going to be more than I thought. Perhaps at the start of the season, he'll play on a Saturday. He won't travel to sort of Sunderland on a Wednesday or something, or go up, but then he just picked up this injury, didn't he? It was all going so well, and you thought, he's played the first 6, and then all of a sudden, bang. So. Whether he'll decide to play another season next year, that's another one, isn't it?
Well,
I
mean, the point was made on the show last week, fairly strongly, by Jonathan Wilkins, that we should be looking at the possibility of a player coach role for him moving forward. And then when he plays, it's kind of a bonus, but
Yeah, I would have no problem with that. I mean, he's whether he'd want to do that. Obviously, I think a lot depends on whether Wales qualify now when he's in the playoffs. Whether he want to see, obviously, if they manage to qualify, he'll probably want to be around, in the summer, isn't he? So, whether he decides to stay on with the City next year for a. But I would like him to stay in some capacity, because obviously I think it's such a big lift to the players around him. He's a quality player, and we're trying to bring some youngsters through now, like Kean Ashford and Joel Colwell, and we're trying to integrate these people in. And I think to have someone there like and Ruben, he could be such a good, to bring his full potential out if he's ever going to have one, To have somebody there like that who's been that quality in his career would be, I think, would be massive. So I'd like to keep him at the club,
So I'll go to Richard in a second. I just want to ask you, Gary. There's a bit of just a weird thing coming to my head. Then I remember, when Craig Bellamy came to us.
Yeah.
So Craig Bellamy, he actually is from Cardiff. He's actually a Cardiff boy. So he came to the club, and he's always bandied around as being kind of player coach material for Cardiff City. But if you compare him with Aaron Ramsey, they're kind of chalk and cheese. I just wonder, do you see Aaron Ramsey of the two as being the more viable as a player coach at some point with Cardiff City?
Well, I don't know whether Craig Bellamy would really want to come back under the current. He left, didn't he, under a bit of a cloud, albeit. I mean, I'm not saying. I think he. So whether he'd really want to come back with the people that everybody at the club is still the same as when he left, aren't they? So whether he'd want to come back under those circumstances, I mean, he's still with Burnley, and I think, irrespective of whether they get relegated, Burnley, which is looking a nailed on certainty now, I think he'll be staying where he is, to be quite honest. I don't think he's got any great compulsion to come back to Cardiff City at the moment.
No, but I mean, I was trying to put words in your mouth there, and I firmly think Aaron Ramsey's got that possibility in him. But that's a big decision.
As you say, Steve, totally different characters, aren't they?
Yeah,
I'm not saying Bellamy was massive when we got promoted. Don't get me wrong, but he's to say he's a fiery character is a bit of an understatement, really, isn't it? So
and with that certain match coming up in a couple of weeks, remember his goal over there, don't we?
Oh yeah, if he's in your side, you love him, don't you? I did anyway when he was here, because he had that attitude, he had that edge about him, didn't he? And he drove everybody on, whether you liked him or not. He was a winner, wasn't he? So
yeah.
So I mean, it was job done, wasn't it? He came back to get us promoted, or help us get us promoted, and he did. So, and I think he was a huge influence in that season. So he was, he's always going to be fondly remembered. He got us into the Premier League, didn't he? They helped us get us into the Premier League for the first time. So.
Yeah, I think was he wearing a red shirt at the time? No, let's not go.
Yeah, that's the only downside. Yeah.
Richard,
nothing about it. We'll
forget I said that. Richard, what's your take on Aaron Ramsey? I suppose in two ways, really. Did we have unrealistic kind of rose-tinted spectacles when we signed him? And I wonder, looking to next season, how much we can expect from him going forward.
I think when he arrived in the summer, I think it gave the club it gave everyone around the club a visible lift, and the supporters, everyone, the hometown hero coming home, and wanting to come back and play for the club, which I think was quite key that as well. But I think in terms of sort of like the younger Welsh players, they'll look up to him, because he is a leader. He conducts himself well on and off the field. So you never hear any sort of you never get any bad press with Aaron Ramsey, do you? And I think he could easily fit into sort of like a player coach role. And maybe that, going forward, that's probably the best thing for him as well. And maybe if he's got managerial ambitions though as well, isn't he? So if he has, it's perfect then to sort of like to learn the ropes.
Yeah, I mean, like Craig Bellamy was brilliant when we first signed him. Fantastic, that first season he was brilliant, and I think Ramsey, although he's sort of he's injured again. When he came on at West Brom, you could see him going for everything. His energy levels was something else compared. He was just charging around. So it came as no surprise that he's pulled up again, But I think he's a good example around the club. He's a good person to have around the club, isn't he? So, and that can rub off, especially on the younger players coming through, are now integrated into the first team. And there's a comment on the screen there for you, Paul. Steve Thomas. Agree, we need stability. Give Errol another year. You were outnumbered on last week's show. Norwich did well, though, standing by Parquet, and let's give Errol a chance. And of course, that seems we can't score goals. I see Ugbo scored again.
He's got six now, isn't he? And six since he signed in January. So
that's the curse of Cardiff City, Paul. Isn't it? We have a striker. They can't score. They can score for everyone else.
And Moore's gone doing what he does, isn't he?
Yeah,
in the championship. So
yeah.
But I mean, that's the difference, isn't it? Ipswich were they signed two strikers actually, and they signed that Al Hamadi as the one from the Wimbledon youngster.
We were linked with him, funny enough.
We were, but
like everyone else.
in fairness to Ipswich, who are probably having a freak season, even by their expectations. They gate crashing almost the top two. They probably didn't expect that. So you'd say on their part, the two strikers they went out and got in January was good business. Particularly, I mean, Kiefer Moore would have. He's just perfect for most championship sides, isn't he? So you know exactly what he's going to do, and he would have done the same for us. But it was all down to money, wasn't it? So, and I'm sure that if we'd have been in and around the top six, I would be pretty sure that the owner would then have punted on that, because then it would have been a worthwhile hedge. But in and around the mid-table, we're not going up, we're not going down. So. No. Again, that's why I come back to the signings. You just got to build for next season. That's why, and I come back to what I said earlier about Bullet. I don't see any reason to change it. He's building something. He's trying to build a squad. They brought the sporting director, or the head of recruitment. Sorry, he's clearly had an influence in that, because he's been. I'm just reading on him now. Actually, he's been in the Greek, Ukrainian, in and around that type of environment, Champions League club. So he's clearly a Bullet appointment. Okay, it seemed he had a little bit of a moan, didn't it? It's probably because of the budget and the frustration in January that we weren't close enough for him to justify getting players like Kiefer Moore. Even if they are on loan, you still got to pay their wages. So I think the signs are. I think the signs are good. We're not going to be able to compete with those sides up the top. There were always going to be those three, and Ipswich have gate crashed it as a fourth. There were probably 2 playoff places available, and it looks like West Brom and Hull will probably take those now. So yeah. You know, that's gone. But the good thing is, I think the teams coming down next season will considerably weaken the division.
Yeah, true.
Compared to who's going up.
Yeah.
So if you looked at Luton, Burnley, and who's the other one? Sheffield United.
Yeah.
I would say next season, with a little bit of cuteness and a good recruitment, depending on the budget again, I think there's far more chance of a playoff spot next season than there is this season. And as I said earlier, mid-table is progression for me and an improvement. And then you look, like I say, come back to style of play, recruitment, etc. And things are going in the right direction. It is frustrating because fans want it next week, and so does the owner. But it's not going to happen in this league unless you have a freak of a season like Luton or Ipswich.
So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, Ipswich, they've gone back in the top 2 again, haven't they? Jamie Anderson's comment on there, basically get March out of the way, reassess what younger lads we can play. You know, once we're safe, hopefully, that are here, and look to who are coming back. You know, so I suppose he's kind of arguing what you're saying there to some extent about, you know, being realistic and looking to the future and building. I mean, one of the things with Errol Bullet, which was discussed a lot last week, I'll stick with you, Paul, for now, and then come back to Gary, is this idea of playing, you know, the inverted wingers thing. Now, on the weekend, we went with a fairly attacking lineup, and it was really nice. So we ended up with, you know, Colwell and Turnbull both starting, and you know, we had some options, right? I really started to like Turnbull. I really think he's got something. But then you got, you know, O'Dowda. He came back in, looked really good. He's a naturally. I'd have him playing down the left, full stop. Yeah, you know, at the top end of the pitch. I'd have him up there for sure. I hate this inverted wingers thing, but he doesn't seem to want to change, does he? You know, Errol. He doesn't. He seems like, this is my way. This is how we play. This is how we go. I don't see much in the way of, you know, plan B or changing things around, or, you know, trying to create more chances for strikers to score goals.
I think he's a defensive manager first and foremost. And Saturday, you saw we had something to hold on to as a 1-0 away from home. We invited pressure on, but because he changed we dropped deeper, didn't we? And he changed the midfield, and that they were going to push on. And I thought they were slightly unlucky, in fact, not to get something, as I thought was Stoke. the last week, I thought Stoke was slightly unlucky.
Yeah, they were
not to get something.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, Stoke and Bristol City are poor sides in this league. They're not. We've beaten the two. You can only beat who you play in the Championship. I know it's intensive, but they're not nowhere near the quality of the top sides who just have goals galore. Even on the bench, they can bring on. That's the difference in this league. It's all about goals and the strength of your squad because it's so intense, and that's what we got to do. I think he's got to find his way of play. You've got to give him a chance because he's new to this league. He's new to this country. He's new to these players, and I think he was caught on the back foot a bit in the early games where we conceded lots of late goals and so on. What I don't like is one big negative. We've lost 16 games in 35. That's too many.
Yeah.
Luckily, we got enough. We got 47 points, even losing 16 games. But I think it took us time to find out which is the best formation at the back, which is the best. How do with the players we got? We haven't got pace. We haven't got ball carriers. I think we played with 3 centre backs at the start because NG was like a right centre back at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then we've gone back to the traditional back four. Yeah. I think he's just finding that way and those players to fit into the system and the intensity of the league. That's why I think stability is key now to give him the chance, particularly of another transfer window now, the most important one coming up. This one, the summer.
Yeah. Well, and will is he going to be the manager to be given the cash to make this? We don't know, do we?
Well, that's again. I think the signs are. I think the signs are there that he's going to be given a new contract. Probably the discussions are going on behind the scenes, and they'll announce it when it's done. But the signs are bringing in the recruitment guy in the January window. And the fact that now we're all but safe, I think those conversations will be, at least we know where we're going to be playing next season, more or less now.
Yeah, we're on 47. We're nearly there, aren't we?
Yeah, one more win, 4 or 5 more points. Yeah. It's nailed on. So
yeah, and then maybe we could try some kids. Talking of kids, Gary, just before I come back to you, our Irish scout Jeff Dela Cruz, who's our feet on the ground in Southern Ireland. I'll be watching Ollie Denham again tonight. He's doing well in the team without a threatened attack. He's starting to assert himself vocally too. So I'd love to see him stick around and be one we can develop. Because but there we go. Gary, just coming back to you on the. I want to ask you this. So when McGuinness comes back, if I go with this one for now, McGuinness comes back. We could then, of course, play McGuinness, Phillips, Gutas, couldn't we? As a 3, we could then go to wing backs. NG, like Paul said, can nip in there and do a job. Does McGuinness come back in when he's fit? He doesn't come in for Phillips, does he?
No, he doesn't at the moment. I mean, that's why we need to keep Phillips because to go. I think that the strongest part of our team at the moment probably is our defence, isn't it? Particularly when McGuinness.
A couple of games, yeah.
What we've lacked all year, from day one as a centre forward, we've been trying to juggle Matey, Atet, and Ugbo doing it, and none of them are really target men in the sense of target men, have they? So I agree with Paul. He is basically a defensive coach, and he sets up that way. He sets up, don't get beat. We're not particularly, but I think the fact that we haven't had a decent centre forward who can hold the ball up and who's mobile, and good enough to hold on to the ball has made it very difficult for us this season at times, and I don't like the inverted wingers thing either. I think Carlin Grant's probably better playing. Like the goal he scored against Stoke was basically Rawls found him in the channel, didn't he? He was coming, he wasn't out on the wing or anything. He was one-on-one with the centre half. He shifted him one way and scored, didn't he? But
that was a left footer.
The left footer. How many times has he been in? Yeah. He's out wide all the time. Yeah. Most of his goals are scored. He scored a goal at Sheffield Wednesday playing as a number 10 late on when he scored. He scored a goal against Coventry City on Boxing Day, which he basically, hit from the D on the edge of the box. He scored very few goals from out on the wing. But you say Eddle's very structured in the way he plays. He, his bowler on the right and then when he brings talent, it's. So it is very he's very pragmatic in his approach, really. And you know, Stoke did have a lot of the ball second half, and I was just so glad to get out of there with a 2-1 in the end. It was a massive win, you know. And then similarly on Saturday, you know, to get out of there with a, but we, you know, we lack goals, don't we? We've lacked goals all season, and you know, teams at the top, you know, once, I mean, at Norwich, I mean, once they went 2-0 up, you might as well have come home then, really.
Well, I mean, that's the difference in the last couple of games, Gary, really, because we started to keep clean sheets.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, once we gone one behind, it was kind of game over. Richard Kingdon's just come back, and we got a Sligo thing going on tonight. I was supposed to be going to Sligo tonight, but the wife nicked the car to go shopping, so Jeff will have to be our spy in Ireland on that one. So if we come away from the McGuinness one, I love McGuinness, by the way. I want him around the club for a long time. But we're you know, we have got their option then. But if we look up front, if they're all fit, right? If Gary Lee, new Cardiff City manager, yeah,
right.
You're playing 3 up front, yeah. Who's your 3?
Well, Robertson's disappeared off the face of the earth, hasn't he, in the last month? He seems to know what's gone wrong with him, and not that he was playing that well anyway. But
illness, I think.
It's a little bit. I mean, you know, really we haven't got a nailed. I mean, Ted plays, but you know, Matey plays. I don't really know. I mean, Callum Grant's probably picks himself, doesn't he? I know he's fit to play it on Wednesday, hopefully. Because that would give us a, you know, I think if we had him on Saturday at Bristol, he may have made a big difference, you know. Because obviously then they had to shuffle Colwell out to play on that side, and Colwell
doesn't. That's the other thing, isn't it? How can you play them both? You know.
Yeah, and he's not. We all know, you know, Ruben's not a winger, is he? He hasn't got the pace to play out.
He's not a left winger.
He's not a left winger. He's got to play. He's got to play in the middle, really, isn't he? And then you've got Turnbull there, then, haven't you? So you can't.
It looked good having them both together, didn't it? So
yeah, to an extent, yeah, it did. But you know, I mean, we were, and then when the Ted came off, then you know, Matey didn't do badly when he came on, really, did he? You know, he was probably, you know, he did okay.
He's a handful, isn't
he? Yeah, he did okay, but I don't think he's a starter, is he? He's been a bit disappointed. No. He's got one goal all season. You know, I mean,
yeah,
you know, he's on the bench a lot, doesn't he? So I think next season going forward, we really need 2 centre forwards, really, don't we? I mean, whether Isaac Davis will come back and make any impact playing off a big guy, you know, there's another option. I mean, the more options you've got, the better. I mean, like Paul was saying, I mean, you look at the top 3 teams. God, they got, you know, they're playing people like, you know, they're playing people like Bamford on, and they got, you know, and you know, they got, you know, Leeds, and they got goals all over them, haven't they, really? And I mean, that's what money buys you, though, isn't it? That's what big money buys you, you know. Parachute payments, you know. I mean, it's going to be it's so difficult, isn't it? Competing. Well, you can't compete with those, can you?
No,
they've got £30 million centre forwards playing for them.
No, I mean, if we look at this season, Richard, Southampton have fallen away a bit, and Ipswich have nipped in there. But basically, those 3 sides, those 3 Premiership sides, you know, they should just go straight back up. I think there's such a gulf now between the Championship and the Premiership this season. Those 3, which took like a head start by miles on everyone, didn't they?
I think with those 3 that did come down, they lost very few players, though, didn't they? They kept the bulk of their squad together. So, and they've all had new managers as well, haven't they? So, you know, I like that. I like Daniel Farker at Leeds. I thought he'd be a perfect fit down here if he was available. But he seems to get the best out of players, doesn't he? So, but you look at their squads. Their squads are way above anything at this level. Ipswich have come up and they score goals, don't they? So this is all about putting the ball in the back of the net a lot of the time. They concede a lot of goals, but they also score. So, but you know, there seems to be quite a bit of a gap now, sort of like, especially some of these clubs coming down. If they don't, you know, they don't offload a lot of players, and they don't have the fire sales, you know, they are in a pretty strong position to bounce back, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Leeds have won, I don't know how many games. They had won a ridiculous amount of games in a row. They're a huge club in this division, let's face it. And also Leicester, obviously. Kiefer Moore, when he steps out to play against Cardiff City, he's going to get a nice warm welcome, Richard, you think?
To be honest, I'm not too sure, to be honest. Because I didn't like the way he left the club in the first place. I mean, I won't boo him or anything, but I didn't like the way he sort of like down tools under McCarthy, and then obviously under Morrison, you know, he wanted to go, you know, and I think he'll probably get a warm reception, as long as he doesn't score.
Okay.
So you like, you know.
Maybe an own goal, a nice own goal might do us nicely.
I think you could stick 20 quid on Kiefer Moore to get one. Actually, he's going to score. And let's face it.
Yeah.
Who would be your front three if you played three?
Mine, God, blimey. I would probably potentially. I'd even move Colwell up front.
That's not a bad call. I don't think.
Play him as a striker because we don't know what his best position is. Because as a 10, he doesn't create a lot. I know he's you know, he's had one assist and he's got one goal. Oh, he's got a couple of goals, 3 goals this season, and 2 of them came in the Carling Cup, didn't they, or the Coca-Cola Cup? But I would potentially give him a run. If not, if we are going to sort of like go a little bit left field, why don't we put Kane Ashford in? Because he scores goals. You know, in the development team. Why don't we just chuck him in? We've got nothing to lose because we haven't got any goal scorers at the club, have we? So why don't we just you know, we're more or less safe. So why don't we just chuck him up front?
Well, see what you can do. Funny you should say that, because I'm currently looking at top scorers for Cardiff City, and
Perry and G's the top goal scorer.
Perry and G is the top goal scorer, right? So Perry and G has 6 and 3 assists, right? Keon.
What about Guntis?
Well, hang on. So Keon's joint with 6, but no assists because he's an out striker, really. Then you got Carlin on 5, and then you go to Dimi Gutas, right? But who's joint 4th top scorer for us?
Joint top goal scorer for us. Blimey.
Ramsey got 2 or 3 of me. 2 or 3. Ramsey.
I'll give you a clue. He's gone to Sheffield Wednesday.
Ugbo.
Yeah. He's still up there as joint 4th striker.
Well, he'd be top now because of the goals he got there. He'd be top scorer.
Yeah, he would.
He's in double figures for the season,
quite comfortably.
But we don't create chances, do we? And that's the problem. That's the thing. Yeah. And we haven't created chances for a long time.
There's quite a lot of comments coming in. Robert Flynn's, I think he's talking about Ollie Doughty and saying how well for Luton we did. He looked good, and he picked up an injury, didn't he, with us? And then Jamie Anderson, Paul's come up with quite a good comment. He says Carlin feels a bit like the Keeper situation, improved at our club, and West Brom will benefit, you know, if and when he goes back, because he's had another good season, Keeper, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's one you would have taken. Yeah, again, with this time last year, you'd have said keep Ray. Yeah, on loan, sign him if we can. But again, all about wages and contract. I think what's his name, Grant, is out of contract, mind, with West Brom.
Kipray's out of contract as well. He's only got a year left at West Brom.
At the end,
he's in his final year.
So, but they would both be on West Brom. Pay big wages,
good money.
We do. So again, that comes down to what if Carlin Grant was available, he'd be a player I would be. He's 26, so I mean, it's just
I wonder what he'd be worth though, Paul, because he went to West Brom for something. Was it 15 million or something mad, wasn't it?
No, he went to Huddersfield, didn't he, for 16 million when they were in the Premier League with us that season. That they were even worse than us.
So, you know, if he's out of contract at the end of the season, they're gonna take a hit. I just wonder how much of a hit that would be. Andrew Turton has made a really good point, which I'll go to you first with, Paul. I think if I say Andrew Turton, I'm thinking, I think he's the guy who used to sell the City fanzine, music fans, hang out to chapter.
Yeah, Finn Bruline, that's right.
Yeah. So thanks, Andrew. This is a good comment. We haven't got that long, so we'll whiz around on this one. Apart from the goal, Saturday's game was awful to watch. Is this what we want, Paul?
First half was pretty poor, both sides. I think, that's easy to say. Second half, I thought we started better and deserved to take the lead. And then we were hanging on because that's our tactics. So was it awful to watch? I don't know. I think a 1-0 away win, it was a derby as well, if you call it that. I'm not sure I do.
It's a derby. Go on.
I think a hard-fought 1-0 away win, changing round tactics. It wasn't end-to-end. It wasn't great. There wasn't a lot of quality. If Bristol City had any quality, they'd have beaten us. Let's be honest. So, awful to watch? I don't think so, because I just realistic where we are with our squad and what I think a 1-0 away win is good. That's clean sheet from a set piece. Nothing wrong with that. Is that what we want going forward? I think we need to improve on the fact that set plays is great and that's a strength, but you've got to have other strings to your bow. You've got to have things in your armory. We need ball carrying players. We need a little bit of pace, and we need the striker. Okay. Easy to say. It's easy to sit here and say. Hard to go and get it. We've missed Ramsey's quality. We haven't solved the striker situation. That is one they got to try in the summer. Atet's a work in progress. I would stick with him, but he's probably a number 3, number 2, number 3. He's young enough to stick with. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot missing. If he can get the back four, if stable, we've got good replacements. Build that squad. Awful to watch. I think we're work in progress, and I got no problem with that whatsoever. Okay, so we'll in response to Andrew's comment, it's not directly in response, but it ties in really well. It's this one from Chris Hughes Jones, which I come to you on, Gary, and just say my front three at the moment, right? My front three would be O'Dowda down the left, Tete. I think he's probably the best option as if he's getting service, and Grant down the right. But that's me. But the comment there about NG, what do you think about that from Chris, Gary?
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment. Going back to what Paul said, we had a hard. I said to you over the weekend, Steve. We had a hard. It's tough to watch us sometimes, and it's not great, is it? But it's just the results are so important at the moment. You beat Bristol when you can put up with a bit of a dirgy performance if you get the result, can you? This last week's it wasn't great against Blackburn. It wasn't marvellous. In patches, it was okay against Stoke. It wasn't great on Saturday, but we got 7 out of 9, and that's probably pushing us towards safety now. And so it's where we're at. Unfortunately, we haven't got the centre forwards, and we haven't got enough pace in the side at the moment, and we've lacked a centre forward from day one. So we're getting by, aren't we, really? And I think in our current position, we're staying up is just or being not going any further down the league is the most important thing. So I think if you get a result, any results, particularly away from home, you think, I don't care what the performance was like. It wasn't great to watch, but and I agree with NG. Obviously, he's been probably him and Gutas have probably been our most consistent players this year, haven't they? Particularly NG. 6 goals from you take his goals away, we'd probably be about 8 points worse off, wouldn't we?
Most of them ahead us from
Grant is in there as a consistent player.
Yeah.
So Mickey Villains come in. I totally agree with Mojo. Give him, obviously talking about Errol Bullock, give him a full window with money. So we'll see if that one happens.
Is he going to get it though? Is he going to get money in the summer? And
do we have any?
Have we got any? And is he? While I don't disagree about giving him another year's contract, I think we've got to stick with a manager for more than 1 season or 6 months But I don't know whether he's going to be convinced again to stay another year if we're going to be, pushing pennies out again, trying to sign another. They got to back. I think they got to back him as far as they can. He might not want to stay, even if we want to give him a contract. That's the big one.
No, and he said he was comfortable with that situation, so you can read that any way you like, really. Loads more comments in the chat. Just to say, if you haven't had a chance to look through them, and we haven't, obviously, while we're going through all of them, but I can see most of them. Some brilliant comments. Thanks again for that. Let's just whiz around on Huddersfield and Ipswich. A couple of predictions, Richard.
2-1. And I'd settle for a 1-1 draw on Saturday.
Okay, Paul.
Optimistically 1-1.
Huddersfield 1-1. Ipswich 1-2.
Okay, Gary.
hopefully we can grind out a result against Huddersfield, because I think realistically Ipswich, I can't see us getting anything out of that. I just think they'll have too much firepower. I just think it'll be very difficult to. But if we can get a result, if we can just about grind out the result against Huddersfield, I would take that. If we can get another 3 points, get to 50, and then obviously we got them down west then the next game, and then we can have a bit of a break in the international then, can't we? So if we can get one more win, and then we can go from there then, can't we?
Yeah, it'd be lovely to go down there a good few points ahead of them, wouldn't it? With them under pressure, but we'll see how that goes.
We could do the double doob or whatever.
The double doob.
We had Swansea in the same season twice.
Yeah. We'll get the t-shirts out then.
We'll get the banners
double doobie t-shirts out.
Yeah. Double doober or whatever it is.
Over top masquerade.
Anyway, on that note, thanks all. Great show. Cheers, guys. Great. Thank you.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, lads.
Bye.
Bye.